Number 10 brings us fatty foods. Your body definitely needs healthy fats for energy and other body functions, but too much saturated fat can cause cholesterol to build up in your arteries or blood vessels. Now, saturated fats raise your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, and having high LDL cholesterol levels increases your chances for getting heart disease or a stroke. So in general, most nutrition experts recommend limiting saturated fat to under 10% of calories each day. Number 9, we have foods that induce gastric acid. It is best to avoid these foods or drinks that will induce gastric acid during pre-dawn meals or iftar. Some examples include spicy or sour foods, specifically foods like black peppers, raw onions, garlic, and other spicy foods. And also citrus fruits and products such as lemons and oranges, even orange juice itself. They induce gastric acid, and it's recommended that you avoid those as much as possible. You guys probably knew this was coming up, but fried foods. And I know these are a favorite to many Muslims during Ramadan, but consumption of greasy and fried foods like fried dumplings and samosas should definitely be limited for optimal benefit while fasting. And this is actually according to one BBC report, and they say, when food is fried, it becomes more calorific because the food absorbs the fat of the oils. And experts know that eating lots of fat-laden food can raise blood pressure and cause high cholesterol, which are risk factors for heart disease. Moving on to number 7, here we have refined carbohydrates. This includes foods like refined sugars, white flour, pastries, donuts, croissants. Oh, I know, some of my favorite foods too. Now, these are foods that last only 3 to 4 hours and they are low in essential nutrients. Eating refined carbs is actually linked to drastically increasing the risks of many diseases, including obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Almost every single nutrition expert that you speak with agrees that refined carbs should definitely be limited in your diet. Refined carbs have been stripped of almost all of their fiber, vitamins, as well as minerals. So for this reason, they can be considered as empty calories. You've probably heard that term being thrown around before. Now, moving on to number 6, here we have salty foods. Definitely too much sodium from salty foods in the diet can lead to high blood pressure, as well as heart disease and stroke. It can also cause a loss of calcium, which can actually weaken your bones. Also, another important thing to note is that an imbalance of sodium levels in your body makes you very thirsty while fasting. So definitely try to avoid salted nuts, pickles, chips, and foods that contain soy sauce. But I do have to say though that salt definitely is an important part of a diet. However, for some people, too much salt may be associated with conditions like an increased risk of stomach cancer and high blood pressure. Number 5 brings us a category of drinks, caffeinated drinks. Some side effects linked to excess intake of caffeine include anxiety, restlessness, tremors, irregular heartbeat, also trouble sleeping. Too much caffeine may also promote headaches and migraines, as well as high blood pressure in some people. Not everybody, but just some. Everybody's body reacts a little bit different. On top of that, though, it doesn't hydrate you, and it keeps you wanting more water for the entire day. So it is recommended that Muslims who are fasting should avoid it at the time of suhoor. And by the way, suhoor is the meal before sunrise during Ramadan. The second drink category at number 4 is carbonated drinks. According to healthline.com, there is no evidence that suggests that carbonated or sparkling water is bad for you. It's not really harmful to your teeth either, and it seems to have no effect whatsoever on your bones' health. However, drinking high sugar soft drinks is actually commonly associated with obesity, type 2 diabetes, and weight gain. But sodas can also have negative effects on your teeth, possibly leading to cavities and tooth decay. Now, if you are in doubt about drinking plain carbonated water though, you can always stick to just regular water. Some people also prefer coconut water. But again, it is not carbonated drinks, it's carbonated drinks with a lot of sugar, like sodas, that is to be avoided. Now, I'm a person, I love sugary foods, but foods with lots of sugar also should be avoided during this time of Ramadan. Eating too much added sugar can have many negative health effects. High sugar foods such as candies and sweets, chocolates, etc. should definitely be avoided. They are an instant source of weight gain and they can lead to a whole lot of other issues in the body if you consume them every single day. Now, from the website WebMD, they say when you eat excess sugar, the extra insulin in your bloodstream can affect your arteries all over your body. It causes their walls to get inflamed, grow thicker than normal, and more stiff. This stresses your heart and damages it over time. This can lead to heart disease like heart failure, heart attacks, and strokes. Next up, the foods at number 2 is foods that induce gases. Avoid eating foods that will induce gases such as jackfruit, durian, as well as excessive drinking of carbonated drinks, there you go again, and also chewing gum. Now, do you know that chewing gum can make you swallow more air? And even when you look at many sugar-free gums, they may be also sweetened with sugar alcohols that are harder to digest. So for those Muslims who are fasting, it is advised to avoid food that is high in calories and may cause dehydration by disturbing the detoxification process. So yeah, be very cautious of them gassy foods. And number 1 brings us to haram foods. Haram is an Arabic term meaning forbidden. And when something is considered haram, it remains absolutely prohibited no matter how good the intention of a person may be or how honorable the use of it may be. Now, Muslims are prohibited from consuming foods that have blood in it, also meats that are considered haram such as pork, cat meat, dog meat, monkey meat, and any other haram animals. They can only be considered lawful in the case of an emergency, if somebody is literally about to die from starvation and it's to save their life. However, these meats are not considered a necessity and they're not permissible at all if a society contains excess amounts of food. But even if a Muslim believer finds themselves in a time of desperation during the month of Ramadan, even then it is not advised to eat any haram foods no matter what, especially during this holy month of fasting. Also, according to Muslim belief, eating something haram during the month of Ramadan, a holy month, is considered doubly offensive. At number 10, we have pork chops. A pork chop, like other meat chops, is a loin cut that's taken from close to the spine of a pig and is usually a rib or a part of the vertebrae. Pork chops are unprocessed and they're pretty much leaner than other cuts of pork, and chops are commonly served as an individual portion. And we know that this is haram because Muslims don't eat pork. Number 9, this comes as a surprise, roasted peanuts. Peanuts that have been roasted, whether in oil or dry, are often roasted in gelatin that is composed of pig hooves. Adding gelatin is used to help the salt and other spices that are added during the roasting to bond with the peanuts for a more flavorful result. They taste really good, by the way, but yeah, be careful if you are traveling to a non-Muslim country or you live outside of a non-Muslim country and you're looking for halal foods. Roasted peanuts may be haram. Just make sure that you read the ingredients before you try to eat some roasted peanuts. Number 8 brings us to cake mix. Now, who doesn't love a good cake? But you see, beef or pork fat are common ingredients in dry box cake mixes, and these are fats often listed on the ingredients list as lard. So to avoid this, they often recommend that you just gotta make cakes at home, or if you're Muslim, check to see if the lard is actually from a pig or if it's from another animal. But again, if it is pig lard, then it is haram. Tortilla wraps, another very surprising one. So most restaurants and homemade versions of tortillas, they're often made with lard again, and store-bought varieties of this don't usually contain lard, but it's still worth taking a look at the ingredients list just to make sure. Another delicious dessert, very popular in my home country, Jamaica, this is rum cake. Now, a rum cake is literally exactly what it sounds like. It's a type of dessert cake which contains rum. Oftentimes it's like soaked in it, but it's soaked to various different degrees depending on how strong you want the rum taste to be. In most of the Caribbean, rum cakes are a traditional holiday season dessert. Traditionally, dried fruit is soaked in rum for months and then added to dough prepared with sugar, which has been caramelized by boiling in water. Wine vinegar comes in at number 5. Wine vinegar is either made from red wine or white wine, and white wine vinegar is a moderately tangy vinegar that French cooks often use to make hollandaise sauces, vinaigrettes, soups, and things like that. And on the other hand, red wine vinegar is widely used in cooking but may have other applications as well. Most often, this is used in salad dressings and other types of marinades. But usually though, the levels of remaining alcohol in red wine vinegar come to no more than 2%. Number 4 leads us to blood sausages, and this goes by many different names like black pudding as well as kazanka. But blood sausage is a delicacy that is enjoyed by food lovers all around the world. It is made the same way as any other sausage, but instead of just containing meat and other spices, it also contains blood. And it usually includes some kind of filler to soak up the blood as well, just so that it doesn't all leak out while you're cooking it. The extra moisture and the flavor from the blood does give the sausage a very distinct taste, so it will taste different from other kinds of sausages because blood is very high in iron, so you'll notice that, yeah, there is a difference in taste there. Moving on now to number 3, escargot. Escargot, also known as snails, is a dish consisting of cooked edible land snails. Now, they're often served as an hors d'oeuvre and consumed by French people as well as people from Portugal, Spain, Great Britain, and Germany. Now, according to Muslim scholar Ibn Hazm, it's not permissible to eat land snails or any other insects and vermins like cockroaches, ants, and bees, and flies, and mosquitoes, things like that. This, by the way, is based on what the Quran says. It says, "Forbidden to you for food are al-maita," which refers to dead animals, and unless you're able to slaughter it before its death. This is taken from Surah 5 verses 3. Coming in at number 2 is another very popular food. It is pepperoni. It's very popular topping on pizza. Although there are halal alternatives, this food as it is made originally is haram. Pepperoni is also known as pepperoni sausage, and it's an American variety of salami, and it's usually made from cured pork and beef all mixed up and mashed together. And it is not halal at all when it comes to Islam because it's a type of meat that is not allowed to be consumed by any Muslims. It comes from pigs. And we're gonna end off this episode with chocolate with alcohol. Chocolates, like certain kinds of truffles chocolate, can contain alcohol, so definitely check before you consume. You can definitely get drunk on liquor chocolates as well, but you will, however, need to consume a lot. A standard shot of alcohol is 30 millimeters, so you would need to eat almost 4 100-gram blocks of chocolate to get 1 shot of liquor. Most people would need to consume more than 700 grams of chocolate to be over the legal blood alcohol limit. So to get quite drunk, most people would need to eat close to 2 kilograms. All right, so let's jump in. Starting at number 10, we have beast with canine teeth and claws. So there's a hadith that comes from Ibn Abbas, and it says that Allah's messenger prohibited to eat every beast of prey that has a canine tooth, and every bird that has a claw. And this was reported by Imam Muslim. And speaking of canines, let's specifically get into dogs. See, as for dogs, it's impure to eat them according to the majority of scholars. Also, according to the hadith, Abu Hurairah reported that the Prophet Muhammad said these words: purifying a container that a dog has licked is done by washing it 7 times. So that's just the dog licking it. It's completely forbidden, so imagine eating it. How much more forbidden that is, if that is such a thing. Either way, dogs, things that dogs lick, prohibited. The next food is ducks who eat impurities. As for the meat of ducks, it's generally not considered haram, but it's frowned upon to eat the meat of a duck that eats impurities. So Muslims have to make sure that they prevent a duck from eating impurities, and then to feed it also with cleaner foods, just so that the duck, if you're planning to eat it, will be considered halal or permissible to eat. Donkeys come in at number 7. Now this reference to donkeys is taken from the hadith, and this hadith was narrated by Abu Thalaba, and it says, Allah's messenger prohibited the meat of donkeys. Plain and simple, pretty straightforward. Alright, so we're moving on to number 6 in this episode. All animals that are not slaughtered in Allah's name are prohibited. So animals slaughtered in the name of anyone but God or Allah, or if they have been dedicated or offered and sacrificed to an idol or a saint or another person, they are completely prohibited. It's forbidden. It is haram. Continuing to number 5, carrion. Carrion, which is pretty much carcasses of dead animals that weren't killed by people or pets that were trained for hunting. That is something that Muslims are told to stay away from. That meat is completely haram. Kind of also tying into number 5 is number 4, and this is about animals who violently lost their lives. So an animal that has been strangled or beaten until it passes away, or it dies because it fell from a high cliff or something, or if it was completely savaged by another animal, that meat is considered haram, so Muslims should avoid that. But there is an exception though. Unless the final blow delivered to this animal where it lost its life was delivered by a human being, then it could be permissible or halal. Number 3, blood. Blood is also a big one. Blood is defined as haram, and therefore it's forbidden to Muslims. The Islamic method actually of killing an animal for meat is called zabiha. After the slaughterer recites the blessing that you're supposed to speak over the animal, they use a very sharp surgical knife or some other very sharp instrument to slice the animal's throat, and that way the blood is allowed to drain from the body, so the animal dies in a very, very, very peaceful manner. And the whole point is for all the blood to drain away, because blood contains impurities and therefore Muslims are forbidden to eat it. Pigs come in at number 2. Probably all, even non-Muslims, know this, but this is actually taken from the Quran, Surah 5 verses 3, that says, "Forbidden for you are carrion and blood and flesh of swine, and that which has been slaughtered while proclaiming the name of any other than Allah, and one killed by strangling, and one killed with blunt weapons, and one which died by falling, and that which has been gored by the horns of some animal, and one eaten by a wild beast, except those whom you slaughter, and that which is slaughtered at the altar, and that which is distributed by the throwing of arrows for an omen. This is an act of sin." So that kind of pretty much covered every single type of haram meat that we mentioned in this episode. Well, the main thing you're supposed to get from that is pigs, all form of pork, all form of gelatin that comes from pigs, all of that is haram. Number 1, probably no surprise, is alcohol. This is a big prohibition that exists in the religion of Islam, and as a matter of fact, it stems from the Quran, Surah 5 verses 90, and that goes as follows: O you who have believed, indeed intoxicants, gambling, sacrificing on stone altars to other than Allah, and divining arrows are but defilement from the work of Satan. So avoid it that you may be successful. So alcohol is an intoxicant, and this also goes for food that is prepared with alcohol. There's some schools of thought though that say if you have a very slight amount of alcohol that's used to prepare the food where you can't get intoxicated from, then it is halal. But for the most part, generally speaking, all Muslims consider alcohol as haram according to the Quran.